Investor Intelligence provides general information only. You should consider seeking independent advice to see how this information relates to your unique circumstances. Please refer to the terms and conditions available at investorintelligence.com.au for more.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Investor Intelligence, brought to you by the team at the Property Mentors. It's your weekly podcast for all things investment and hosted by me, Phoebe Sikowski-Wallace. So joining me today and back again for the third time, lucky me, is business coach extraordinaire Helen Mac. As a business coach, Helen helps create the best possible results for small business owners and has coached and trained thousands of people to improve results in not only their businesses but also their lives. Helen, welcome back.
Nice to be here, Phoebe. It's great to talk to you again.
Of course. Thank you so much for continuing to say yes every time I invite you on. So listeners, you will of course recognise Helen from episodes 61 and 70, where we talked about everything from setting your small business up for success to the key attitudes for sustaining business success. If you haven't already, or if you're new here and this is the first episode you're listening to, I highly recommend you listen to both episodes. They are fantastic, if we do say so ourselves. No, we've had some great feedback on them, so the proof is in the pudding with that one. But Helen, enough about pudding. In addition to the incredible work that you do, you've also done a TED Talk, correct?
A TEDx talk, to be fair, but yes, it was a fantastic opportunity to share some new ideas, and TEDx really stretches the mind of the presenter as well as the audience.
Yeah, how did that come about?
Through the way most of my work comes about, word of mouth and referral.
Yeah.
Someone knew someone who was running a TEDx who needed an opening speaker, and that was me.
Yeah, no, it's amazing, and I'll definitely share that in the show notes because I highly recommend anyone watch it. But, you know, Helen, the last few times we've spoken, we've kind of talked about this almost, you know, knife's edge, or this sort of fine line of business succeeding and failing, and, you know, sometimes aiming too high but achieving too little. And there's a quote that I learned from you, not only when we were talking about doing this episode, but also from your TED Talk, that has just stuck with me ever since. And that is, the top part of optimism looks like the bottom part of delusion. Yes. So I want to explore that a little bit more with you. To start off, how do you define optimism and delusion? Like, what's the difference between the two?
So the fine line is the challenge, Phoebe, that optimism, I preach and live a version of life which is all about maximising optimism. But the line between the two is when, if you are too optimistic and you're not taking into account risk factors, you're not taking into account environmental factors, being like small e environment, not the big E environment that everyone's getting, you know, trees and stuff, but like the environment in which you're operating, and you keep saying, no, it'll be fine, regardless of all these signs that things are going to go badly, it'll all be fine. A very current example, and we are chatting in February 2022, an example of that is the people who believe, 2023. Oh my God, let's edit that out. So we are talking in February 2023, and there are people who were in delusion about the bank interest rates staying at effectively zero. That was delusional. And they made decisions based on that resulted in all kinds of grief for them in their property investment decisions and in their home investment decisions, because it's like, oh no, it'll be fine. It's fine. The fact that history shows that that's unsustainable, that other than the people who didn't know anything, the true experts were saying this cannot last. They were going, no, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. I'll overstretch myself. That's delusion.
Okay.
Optimism is, what's the best possible result that I can get from this scenario? So it was an opportunity for people. The low interest rates was a great opportunity, as long as they took advice from experts like you, or financial experts in other parts of their world that said, okay, what can we do now and what would be sustainable should the interest rates change,
right.
which they're likely to do. That's the fine line. Optimism is, this looks like a fantastic opportunity. How can I maximize that opportunity? Delusion is, I'm going to ignore all of the risks and all of the environmental factors that are telling me that this is not going to work and I'm going to do it anyway.
Oh, that's a great example. Because, when you think of like optimism and delusion, you might think off the top of your head, oh, that's pretty self-explanatory what the difference is. But I think that's a really, really clear way to paint that.
Well, we're in that pain point now, and I feel for the people who were deluded about it.
For sure. So why is it important to understand the border between optimism and delusion, particularly in our professional lives or, small businesses?
Fantastic question. The problem or the challenge is that if we are optimistic in our businesses, then we'll make good decisions about our progress, about our growth, about our marketing, our strategies. We'll make conscious decisions about building the success slowly. If we're in delusion, we will take more risks. All of the things that I talked before, we'll take more risks. We will continue down pathways where all of the signs are showing us that it's not the direction to take because we're just going, no, it'll be fine, crash. When we're operating from a position of optimism, we are being logical and step by step. And when we're operating from delusion, it's just we're running ahead and going, no, I'll make it all up. I'll fix it all up along the way. I'll fix it up later. And then, of course, later doesn't come because we've crashed.
It reminds me of the sort of rose-tinted glasses way of life.
Completely.
Yeah.
And in fact, absolutely that. And if you're wearing rose-tinted glasses and the obstacle is rose-tinted, you won't see it. So that's the challenge of that sort of view is, I'm fine. I'm running along with my hands over my eyes going, I'm fine. I can't see any problems. Well, that's because you're closing your eyes.
Yeah, it's harder to see red flags when you've got rose-tinted glasses on.
That's beautiful. Thank you. That's lovely. I like that.
So can optimism, in a way, can it be detrimental to our well-being or success as well?
Well, the challenge, Phoebe, is that it's not optimism that's detrimental, it's positive thinking. So my belief is that positive thinking has a negative aspect.
Yeah, I was going to say that was something that you talked about in your TED Talk, and it's one of the first things you bring up, and it's so interesting about this positivity virus and how it has this potential to cause major damage. So what do you mean by that? What does that look like?
So there was a huge, almost like a rash of, everyone sort of teaching positivity. I'm using those same analogies, aren't I? Teaching positivity and everyone was being taught to think positive, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And the reason I talk about it as a virus is just before we started chatting today, I Googled be positive and in 0.4 seconds, I got 6.5 billion responses to be positive.
That's wild.
And the reason for that is because everyone thinks that positive thinking fixes things. Here's the challenge. Positive thinking is missing a critical element for success, which is the action imperative. You can sit on the couch and think positively for as long as you like. The red Ferrari is not going to come down the driveway.
Yeah.
You can wish it, you can think it, you can hope for it, but until you do something, nothing's going to happen. Optimism has a built-in action imperative. Even the first three letters spell the word opt, which means to choose. The word optimism it comes from the Greek optimus or the Latin optimus, which means the search for good. It's about the seeking out the best possible. And so optimism is about a choice and to opt for the best possible outcome. And so it has built into it this idea that you must take action to create a better result tomorrow than you're experiencing today.
So that's the core sort of difference, is that action that's being taken.
Absolutely. Positive thinking is just thinking. Optimism includes and requires action.
Yeah, I think I remember the sort of time in my life when, positive thinking started to become a bit more known globally or, and that was probably the rise of the internet and, technology and everything. And at the start it sounded great. Like all I have to do is sit here and think positively and it'll all happen for me. That sounds great. Right.
All I need to do is mutter some affirmations every day and the world will be wonderful.
I'll manifest everything from my bedroom. Yeah. So something else you mentioned in your TED Talk is about these kind of different lenses or ways of looking at how people approach tasks in their sort of, professional life, but I imagine too their personal lives as well. Why is it important to know what your lens is? And what are these lenses, first of all?
So this piece that I talk about is to do with making sure that so everything has to be done within an optimistic frame, but then we need to think about how do we view the world to be able to get the best possible result for ourselves, our teams, our friends and family, our community. It applies in all parts of our world. And there are two lenses that people may not be conscious of. And if you're not conscious of these lenses, then you're making decisions on the basis of them, and you're not aware that your decisions are therefore being biased by these lenses. And the first one is focal distance. So this is literally like a photographer. A photographer knows that if they move the lens around and they change the focal distance, they can literally put their focus on something that's close to them or something that's far away. And to talk about business owners, because that's where our current bias is, if a small business owner is focused on the things that are only just immediately around them, that's a narrow focus, a tight focus. And that might mean that they miss opportunities that are slightly further out because they haven't focused on the horizon. And even our eyes, Phoebe, lose the ability to change focal length if we don't use them for that. So because we're all spending so much time on our computers, which has a focal length of this, often there are lots of people out in the world at the moment who are not, their eyes, and I'm wearing glasses, their eyes are not as good at focusing on the horizon because they're spending so much time with a 2 foot or how many of a centimetre, 60 centimetre focal length. As a business owner, we need to get practiced at look close, look at a distance, look close at what's happening around me now, look at a distance what's out there that's an opportunity or a threat or whatever. We need to be able to change those focal distances. But we have a bias. We all have something that we like to do more.
Yeah.
And as a small business owner, as we grow our teams, it's a really good idea to bring into our team, into our sphere, people that have that bias at the other end. So the ones, if I'm someone who has a tight focal lens, mostly, I need to bring in some people who are good at the long distance, the horizon. And if I'm a horizon thinker, I need to bring in people who are more focused on the detail, on the everyday detail. And then the second one is the second lens, if you like, is timeline. So some of us are very focused on today, tomorrow, the next day, so immediate timeline. And some people are, long-term, future thinking.
Out of the box,
Out of the box. The analogy that I use is that some people are building castles in the sky and some people are digging the foundations on the ground. Some people are building the house and some people are... And again, it's not neither of them are right or wrong. It's if you have the awareness of which is your bias. So, awareness first and then adjusting or bringing in, I know I'm a today, tomorrow, the next day thinker. What's going to happen next month? The month after, 6 months next year, and or who do I have in my world who can get my head up sometimes? Because if I'm going today, tomorrow, the next day, the next day, the next day, if I'm not careful, I could run into a brick wall, an obstacle, because I haven't looked up. But if I'm constantly looking at the long distance, then I'll fall down the manhole that I didn't see because I haven't got any view of what's happening at the step in front of me. So both of them we need. It's not right or wrong. It's simply awareness of my bias and how am I going to adjust for that bias or bring in someone who can assist me to adjust my timeline. You need to surround yourself with people who can help you with that.
So it's okay to have one, but you should be training yourself to either, switch between the two, but it's okay to have sort of more one as long as you're sort of aware of them. And then
the awareness is the key piece. Okay. And just recognizing what's my bias. And then, okay, if that's my bias, I need to put more effort, conscious effort, if I need to look at the other bit. And when I'm starting to recruit people around me, bring in extra people, let's have that conversation and see if I can balance my bias with someone else's bias, so the business has that ability to do both.
I love that. I already know which one my bias is, and I can think of, other colleagues who might have the same, but I think I know of other colleagues who have the opposite. And just from surrounding myself with them, we almost in a way balance each other out and teach each other how to do that, because it might not be first nature for us at the start, but it's such a great way to learn about it. But yeah, I do love that. So Helen, how can one cultivate a healthy balance, and what are some of the strategies of combating delusional thinking while still promoting a optimistic outlook?
The key element of avoiding delusion is to keep asking yourself the questions that we talked about in episode 61. So go back and listen to that, boys and girls.
Yes.
Because that's about making sure that you're getting focused on the reality of what's possible given your scenario, and then targeting your best possible outcomes so that you can take steps to achieve that. If you're constantly doing the anything's possible kind of approach, then you may be straying into delusion.
Yeah.
To maintain an optimistic approach, to have this best possible, this attitude for searching for the good and looking for what's the best possible outcome from any scenario. And, the stuff that we have just been through, again, February 2023, the things that we've just been through, there were some good outcomes from the pandemic and all of those terrible scenarios. The people who benefited the most from all of that were the ones who were able to say, not just positive thinking, I'm fine, or delusional, everything's rosy, I should continue down the path of my massive business growth when, the world's crashing in on itself. Optimism is about saying, what's the best outcome for me and my business, my family, my friends, my community right now, given the scenario that we're in. And then there are some things you can do to maintain an attitude of optimism to create best possible results, especially in your business, which is our focus for this podcast. So would you like me to share 3 things that your listeners can do?
I would love you to share 3 things.
So the first is around creating clarity. So, from a business perspective, that's about clarity of expectations, clarity of results tracking, clarity of market and niche, and who am I talking to. So the more clarity you can get in your business, the more likely you will be to be able to be optimistic about that business. And there are 4 levels of clarity that I work with my coaching clients, starting with mud, where you're really stuck in the mud and everything's just really, really hard, through to what I call crystal clarity, which is where more options are available, because just like when you shine a single beam of white light into a crystal, it creates a fractal of rainbow colours, every colour in the rainbow, literally. We need to get to that point to create pure optimism, or the best, strongest optimism about our business is to move from mud through the levels to crystal clarity. So that's number 1, create clarity. Number 2 is to maximize momentum. So often when we're in business, we're working so hard that we find ourselves kind of spinning our wheels a bit, and maximizing momentum is sometimes about slowing down enough so that we can get traction. So if we're spinning our wheels, sometimes just slowing a bit means that we can get traction and get back into forward momentum. The analogy is, if you're spinning your wheels in mud, spinning them faster is not going to get you any further. It's just going to get you muddier. You need to get some resources, a mate with a bigger truck and a tow bar, or some mats for under the wheels, something else to break spinning logs, hessian, sacking, whatever. Just spinning faster isn't going to work. You need the traction to get yourself going. And if you're stuck, so not a different analogy, but if you find yourself going, which way should I go? Oh my goodness, there's too many choices, apart from a prioritization process that I teach my clients. If you're at that point, just do something.
Yeah.
If you take action, even a small action, baby step in any direction, that's better than going nowhere, because it's very hard to change direction from being stationary. So what we need to do is create a scenario where we get into action, we take one small step, and then we kind of go, how did that feel? Did that work? Do I feel good? Did that get me the result I want? And if the answer to all of those is yes, then take another step in the same direction, and then another step, and slowly that will build momentum. If you take that first little step and everything you like from it, how did it feel to you, and the response from other people, or the response from the market, or response from a client goes, nah, you go, okay, that didn't work. How about if I just adjust by 5 degrees? Let's take a step in that direction. Oh, that felt better. Do I need to go? So just baby steps. Any direction is better than none. It's much easier to change direction if you're in momentum.
Yeah.
So the first is create clarity. Second is maximize momentum. And the third one is maintain mindset. Now, no prizes for guessing which mindset I recommend you maintain. So maintain an optimistic mindset. And the key piece here in terms of these 3 steps to overall maintaining an optimistic mindset is that in business, in life, in property investment, some days are diamonds. Some days everything's sparkling. It's all going brilliantly. Take advantage of that. And when things are going well, do lots of stuff, whatever you need to do at the time. And when you have, so some days are diamond, some days are coal. This is a John Denver lyric, I think. On the coal days, on the days where it's just all really hard, my very strong professional recommendation is be gentle on yourself. Do just the things that you need to do. Take some time out, breathe, go and hang out with some people who make you feel better, and then tomorrow will be a better day.
Helen, I always feel just so inspired after I talk to you, honestly.
Thank you.
No, but thank you so much. God, all your analogies are absolutely hilarious, but they really hit home. They really get the point across, which is amazing.
It's much better than just theory, right?
Oh my God, yes.
If I can build a picture, it's much more fun.
Absolutely. But Helen, anything you wanted to add before we wrap up?
Well, Phoebe, as well as the TEDx talk, which I'd love to have people go and look at, and you're going to provide the link.
Absolutely.
But I'm also going to provide you with the ebook that I created as a result of that. And so I'd love for people to because some people like listening to podcasts, some people like watching videos, and some people like reading. So I'm going to provide all of the listeners with a copy of the ebook, The Fine Line. Leadership is the fine line between optimism and delusion. And as I always do, any of your listeners who would like to have an initial consult with me, a chat about how does all this apply in their businesses, I'm more than happy to have that first no strings attached conversation, and I promise that they'll get one gem that they can use and implement to improve the optimism in their lives and their businesses.
That's incredibly generous. Thank you, Helen. And as always, thank you so much for your time. You're always a pleasure to learn from. And listeners, just like last time, if you want to book yourself in with Helen, or if you want that link to the ebook, head to investorintelligence.com.au/business coach. So you can find that all in our show notes for that very generous offer from Helen. Helen, thank you so much again.
Thank you, Phoebe. It's always a delight to talk to you. I look forward to us finding something else that we can talk about.
Oh, I've got notes. Don't worry, I've got notes. You'll be on again soon.
Fantastic. I look forward to it.
If you found this episode or any of our episodes helpful, please make sure to share and leave a rating to help us reach more people on their investing journeys. And of course, subscribe to be notified when new episodes drop. Make sure to follow the podcast on Instagram @Investor Intelligence Podcast. You can find links to our other socials in the show notes, including a link to the Property Mentors weekly blog. If you're ready to get your property portfolio in shape for financial freedom, check out Luke's latest book, Property Fit. You can get yourself a copy at www.propertyfitbook.com.au.